You know, this is about learning and being able to acknowledge people for all that they contribute and being able to create solutions for the present and future generations to stand and work together to hold each other up by what they're going to inspire us with and what people receive their awards for. And, you know, that is something that we need to do and remember. And my late grandfather said to be able to do that and work together and respect each other. So it's an honor to be able to open tonight and to be able to now ask you to stand. My grandfather taught me and the elders that everyone prays to a higher power. He taught me when I was like 9, 10, 11, till he left this earth in 1972. And he said the Creator sends energy from through the top of your head down, and we all have an energy within each other, within ourselves. Believe in it and you can heal yourself or help your ailments. And then the old people believe that when you pray, you need to be open to Creator's energy and each other's energy and be able to share that, because they say you don't pray for yourself because everyone else is praying for you. So now we're going to do Tai Chi breathing. And I say that because negotiation teaches you if you cross your arms that you're closing yourself off. If you hold your hands together, you're still closed off. So I believe in saying, let's do breathing and just do 4 breaths. And if you want, move your hands aside and even just like Tai Chi, pull a breath in. Last one, you leave your hands at your side. If I see you, and I'll see you, quite a few of you, if I see your shoulders go together like this, I know you're putting your hands together, and I'll come down and use you for my drum. So I'm going to sing Sequalia's song, Greeting of the Day. It's a healing song that the elders fixed in like 1910 to share from our people. It was an older version to share with you. And so it's called Greeting of the Day, Sequalia's song. While I sing it, I ask that you pray for all your family from the unborn to the oldest. And then after I sing, I'll say a quick prayer and then turn it back over to our MC. So remember to pray for each other and all your family. Chenque mentomi kakakanak chesiam yonsionso tenoyap and manman desquils deceits yonsio manman squalawin yonsio manman sequadal chet to squils deceits yonsio manman snachum tsetop. Asking you, Creator, to watch over and guide all of your children gathered here tonight, to help and watch over their squallowing, their feelings in their heart and in their mind, their mental, emotional, physical, spiritual well-being. Asking prayers for all of their families, from the unborn skockle, unborn babies, manman, the children, parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents, for their squallowing and mental, emotional, physical, spiritual well-being. Asking, Creator, that you let everyone hear the words that are going to be shared, take into their heart what's meant for them, and to be able then to share words about that what you witnessed tonight with others of what you heard and shared and learned, for the work that sets up, the work that you do today and into the future. Asking prayers for all of our family from all ages, to be able to have your prayers cover them for their many illnesses, cancers, that's affecting many children, young children, babies even, and all the way up in the treatments they're getting, arthritis, heart problems, diabetes, TB, HIV, Hep C, and many other illnesses, injuries that are waiting for surgery, or those who have had surgery and getting physio, prayers for their health, healing, and recovery. Asking you, Creator, to hear our prayers for all our family and friends who are battling alcohol and drugs, especially with the opioid crisis that's taking people of all ages and all races of people, at young ages to older ages, and for those incarcerated because of their battle and traumas with alcohol and drugs, and for their families who love them that don't want to lose them, or for families who have lost loved ones. We pray that they find that healing path to recovery and become survivors to share their story for those who maybe won't walk the path, that dark path, because of the story they can share. And prayers for all our family and friends who have AM Squalwin, strong feelings of their heart of sorrow for lost loved ones, to know that they love you and they worry about you, and they send you signs if you can only notice it. Maybe it's a bird or something, you know, hummingbird, dragonflies, I read, have 2 sets of wings because they carry angels on their back. Maybe it'll be that, or you're down one day and then you see a hummingbird, or a lady told me a cardinal, and you're probably here this evening, so thank you for the story, because then you start smiling and talk about that all day, because it was a loved one lifting up your spirit and spreading that love to others that you share the story with. So know that they love you and worry about you. Asking, Creator, that tonight's work be yet one halt up, excellent work, and that everybody gets home safely at the end of the night. Tama kwetsi snachim hoichacha. Now you can.
Thank you, Sequalia, for starting our evening off in a good way. Welcome to Health Talks. This is the event's 9th year, and for those of you who've been joining us over the year, I think you'll agree that it has really evolved into a unique way to honor some very special people and ponder some big ideas in our health system. We'll begin by celebrating the winners of our 2020 Quality Awards, 8 projects and people whose outstanding work improved the healthcare system. And then 9 speakers will use 20 photos and precisely 6 minutes and 40 seconds to tell us about their hopes for healthcare. Some nervous chuckles in the audience. Health Talks is part of a 3-day conference we are hosting called the Quality Forum. Earlier today, 500 people attended full-day events about unleashing compassion to overcome burnout, creating connections to improve care, and providing integrated primary and community care that is culturally safe and accessible. The forum's main program takes place tomorrow and Thursday, where we'll welcome more than 1,000 people. That'll be a sellout crowd for the 9th year in a row, and those people will be attending breakout sessions, interactive workshops, field trips, and even a debate, all on a variety of topics related to improving care across the continuum. Whether you're joining us just for tonight or for the entire 3 days, welcome. We're honored to be able to bring you all together to drive the change in our health system by sharing learnings, uncovering needs, and developing strategies for better care. Before we begin, I encourage you to use your phone tonight. Help us capture Health Talks on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and beyond, any other social media platforms you desire. We want to know about your hopes for healthcare as well as the moments and photos that stand out for you. When you do, please post and make sure you use the hashtags Health Talks and QF20 so that you can join the conversation. But please do turn off your ringtones for the next couple of hours. This is also a great time to text your friends, family, and colleagues to remind them that we are streaming live for tonight's event on our website, bcpsqc.ca. And hello to everyone who's watching online already. We'll start our night by celebrating great work and credible people that are improving healthcare. The Quality Awards recognize a project in each of the 4 areas of care that are defined by the BC Health Quality Matrix. It's a tool we created to serve as a common language for understanding quality. Those areas are staying healthy, getting better, living with illness, and coping with end of life. I encourage you to grab a copy of the Matrix out on our resource table if you have a chance after the event. We also have 4 awards that are for inspiring individuals: an everyday champion, a quality culture trailblazer, a leader in quality, and a leader in advancing the patient voice. The winners each receive $2,500 to support their work and ongoing learning and development. And before we begin, I'd like to invite Devin Harris to join me on stage. Devin is the chair of the BC Patient Safety and Quality Council and will be presenting the winners with their plaque. And to the winners, please make your way up to the stage when I begin describing your great work. Our first category is the Excellence in Quality Staying Healthy Award, which is presented to an initiative that is focused on preventing injuries, illness, or disability. The Provincial Overdose Mobile Response Team provides short-term crisis intervention and support to healthcare workers at the forefront of the overdose crisis. Come on up. These workers frequently respond to complicated traumatic events, including multiple overdoses, overdose deaths, and are susceptible to stress, injury, and trauma. The team travels to communities throughout BC to provide trauma-informed services and support. It has served almost 17,000 people, 1,200 agencies, and 80 communities, helping first responders, point-of-care workers, and people with lived experience continue to provide high-quality care by staying healthy themselves. Congratulations to the Mobile Response Team. Our next award is the Excellence in Quality Getting Better category for a project that improved care for acute illness or injury. This year's winner is Northern Health's Aboriginal Indigenous Health Improvement Committees. The 9 committees were formed to address barriers to healthcare faced by Indigenous peoples by bringing together Northern Health and Indigenous health leaders to identify priorities and work together towards solution. The committees support health and wellness for Indigenous peoples, families, and communities by facilitating learning about each other's realities and opportunities. They also connect grassroots organizations and individuals with health leaders and practitioners. So far, the committees have developed more than 65 resources and initiatives and 25 patient journey process maps, which has led to changes in service delivery, facility design, and policies across sectors while making healthcare more welcoming for Indigenous peoples. Congratulations to the committees. Next up is the Excellence in Quality Living with Illness category. for a project that improved care and support for chronic illness or injury. In 2014, the Gitxsan Health Society, along with concerned community members, asked researchers at UBC to investigate why there seemed to be a high rate of long QT syndrome, a condition which may cause an abnormal heart rhythm that can lead to dizziness, fainting, heart palpitations, and seizures in people with First Nations ancestry from northern BC. The university's community genetics research program began visiting regularly and soon discovered a gene mutation was the most common cause. Anyone with a predisposition to long QT syndrome now receives culturally safe, evidence-based monitoring and management. Importantly, many of them may never have experienced symptoms. This program is preventing potential acute care admissions and possible deaths while helping the majority of people with the disorder live long, healthy lives with minimal treatment. Congratulations. Our Excellence in Quality Coping with End-of-Life Award honors a project that improved planning, care, and support for life-limiting illness or bereavement. This year's winner is Whole Community Palliative Rounds, which supports shared clinical problem-solving, decision-making, and communication among palliative and the end-of-life care team members. Through the initiative, 10 teams are supporting 40 communities within Interior Health. They meet weekly to discuss symptom burden and distress reported by individuals and family members. They solve problems, discuss immediate care needs, and support each other. In initial evaluations, care providers reported outstanding increases in their teamwork, communication, and a sense of support in delivering palliative care. The rounds are building strong interprofessional relationships and increasing the capacity of local teams to provide the best possible palliative and end-of-life care while also caring for each other. Congratulations. Next up is the Leadership in Advancing the Patient Voice category. This award celebrates a patient, caregiver, or family member who made an outstanding contribution to advancing the patient voice in BC's healthcare system. Our winner this year is none other than Betty Murray. With a feisty personality and unbeatable determination, Betty shares her extensive experience as a patient, improves care, and guides other patients in navigating healthcare and having their voices heard. She inspires others to improve quality and has helped grow a pool of patient partners who participate in health projects. Over the years, Betty has been a huge asset to many groups and initiatives. Recent examples include becoming the first patient partner to attend regular patient safety learning system meetings at Providence, and joining UBC's Interprofessional Health Mentors program, where she mentors 3 students in supporting people with chronic conditions and their caregivers. We've been very fortunate at the Council to work with Betty on a number of occasions, and I cannot understate how much we value her honesty and straight shooting. Betty would like to thank the BC Patient Safety and Quality Council, Providence Healthcare, Vancouver Coastal Health, UBC, BC College of Nursing Professionals, BC Cancer, Frog Hollow Neighborhood House, and all of the hardworking volunteers who are making a very positive difference in our healthcare system. She also wants to thank her family, many of whom are here today. She's proud of you, and your love, support, and caring are why she's able to be here today. Congratulations, Betty. And
a bit longer than some people do. I don't want to do a pratfall.
An everyday champion is someone who shows passion and commitment for improving quality of care, even though their role does not necessarily specify doing so. This year's winner is Jeff Harries, a family physician with the South Okanagan Similkameen Division of Family Practice. If Jeff looks familiar, it's because he was actually a speaker at last year's event. Jeff is working to change the way alcohol use disorder is perceived in our society and treated by healthcare professionals. He tirelessly champions hope and appropriate care for those suffering with AUD. and spreads awareness about new forms of effective treatments. After realizing that many clinicians were unaware of the literature and research supporting the use of medications in alcohol use disorder, Jeff began leading small-scale continuing medical education events. The past 2.5 years, he's spoken to over 100 groups and 3,000 clinicians in BC and Alberta, and he's even using a rigorous evaluation model to monitor the impact they have on physician prescribing practices, emergency room use, as well as acute care admissions and readmissions. In doing so, he is destigmatizing alcohol use disorder and improving accessibility and adoption of AUD medications. Congratulations, Jeff. Our next award is the Quality Culture Trailblazer. This award honors someone who has created an environment where passionate staff are empowered and encouraged to innovate, and where teamwork and open communication are the norm. This year's recipient is Lisa Stewart. Lisa has fundamentally changed Vancouver Coastal Health's approach to embedding quality improvement into daily practice at the point of care. The key to her success? Launching communication channels that break down hierarchy, inspiring staff to provide the best possible quality of care, and celebrating people who make a difference. For example, she's empowered dozens of teams to lead improvement opportunities in Richmond Hospital and Vancouver General Hospital. Hundreds of improvement projects have been developed through the program, including trauma checklists, handover processes, and sepsis management. And Lisa makes sure to celebrate someone who goes above and beyond. She launched a campaign to highlight staff who demonstrate the best possible care. In only 4 years, it has celebrated hundreds of physicians, nurses, allied health professionals, housekeeping staff, Starbucks baristas, and leaders. It is spread across VCH as well as to other health authorities. Congratulations, Lisa. Our final award of the night is presented annually to an individual who demonstrates outstanding leadership in improving the quality of care. It is named after Doug Cochrane, who chaired the Patient Safety and Quality Council for over a decade from its creation to last fall. I'd like to invite Doug to please join Devin and I on stage to present this year's award, or this year's Doug Cochrane Leadership Award. Doug has long been a leader in improving quality and safety in our province and across Canada. He has enormous impact on our organization and on BC's healthcare system, and we couldn't think of a more fitting way to honor Doug than renaming our award. This year's winner of the Doug Cochrane Leadership Award is Kim Dixon. Kim has changed the way mental health care is addressed in northern BC by creating innovative peer support initiatives for families whose loved ones experience mental illness and addiction. She has launched initiatives which reduce barriers so that people learn to cope with the challenges of their loved ones' mental illness and or addiction. Kim is an active caseload of up to 100 families per year through the program. Kim has built partnerships with Northern Health, the Native Court Worker and Counselling Association of BC, community health organizations, and school districts to build awareness about mental illness. She has brought mental illness into the mainstream discussion in healthcare in Northern BC, reducing the stigma that can make families reluctant to advocate for themselves or their loved ones. Congratulations, Kim. Congratulations again to all of tonight's winners and the runners-up as well. I encourage you to visit our website, bcpsqc.ca, to read more about their work. There are profiles on all the winners and the runners-up. I'd also like to thank the Quality Award judges for taking the time to review all of the nominations received. You'll see them listed in your program. Nominations for the 2021 Quality Awards are going to open in May, so get your nominations ready. It's now time for our evening's Pechakucha presentations. I thank the 9 speakers for taking the stage tonight to share their hopes for healthcare. I know it can't be easy. Our MC tonight is a familiar face to anyone who has attended Health Talks before. Stephen Lewis is a Canadian health policy and health services research consultant, an adjunct professor of health policy at Simon Fraser, now moonlighting in Australia. Welcome, Stephen, and please join me on stage. Thanks.
Well, thank you. As you can see, I shaved since here, and yes, I'm in Australia. I've been there for 2 years, but as you can see, I've resisted, to your great benefit, acquiring the accent, which is the Australians' revenge on the mother country, I think. Yeah, we'll take your language and wreck it. But it's wonderful to be back here. I've been in the country for about 2.5 weeks, and been to Winnipeg and Saskatoon and now here, and it's milder here than it was on the prairies. And of course, I am from Saskatchewan, which is, as some of you may know, it's a Cree word meaning we're not fond of the carbon tax. And the courts will be working that out as we speak. So, this is a fantastic opening to the conference. Congratulations to the award winners, and I know that you're really looking forward to this. It is a wonderful event. I think it's our 9th time for the Pechakucha, and we have fabulous presentations. So again, just to calibrate the audience, who's been here before to one of these at least? Who are completely new to this? Great, so this is fabulous that this is your first time. It's a rush, and if you've been once, I'm sure you will come back many times. So we should explain what Pechakucha is. Pechakucha allegedly originated in Tokyo in 2003 as part of an event for young architects to share their passion in a unique, concise format. And each presenter, as Andrew said, shows 20 photos for 20 seconds. I think it actually originated a little bit earlier. Some people were yearning for a bit of a truncated presentation who may have attended a Wagner opera and said, you know, I thought it would be a little lighter and not quite so long. And those of you, and I'm dating myself here, after the 18th verse of MacArthur Park probably were thinking, you know, that could have been a shorter tune and wouldn't have really lost much if it had anything to begin with. But it was, I think, a response to the fact that, okay, we've got a lot to do. It's now a visual world that we have much more technology. How can we redo the speaking format? Because rare does someone go to a conference and say after the speakers, gee, I wish that had gone on a lot longer. I mean, being brief is not only good for our attention span. I mean, the more we know about our psychology, we can't absorb more than 3 things usually at a time, and 6 minutes and 20 seconds is actually quite a bit of time. And secondly, and having done these a couple of times, it's an incredible challenge for the presenters. And it takes some courage to do this, because to organize a topic 20 times 20, and it's not, there's no wiggle room. It's not, well, you can have 25 over here and 15 over here. No, this is very Japanese-like precise. This is like a Toyota assembly line. It's 20 times 20 and there's no deviation. So it takes, I mean, you're only going to hear 6 minutes and 20 seconds or so from these people, but you are going to hear the results of hours and hours of preparation to get it right. So before we even begin, let's give them a hand for stepping up to do this. And Vancouver is actually quite a hotbed for Pechakucha, but it is now in over 1,000 cities worldwide, and this is a certified, recognized Pechakucha Foundation event here. I don't know what that confers on us, but anyway, it's nice to be recognized. So, to begin, bravely leading off our evening tonight is Natasha Young. Natasha is passionate about storytelling, community, and people. As the founder and executive producer of Cold Tea Collective, a media company and community for, by, and about Asian millennials, she is committed to helping people navigate their identities through storytelling. So please welcome Natasha.
Thank you.
Welcome, Dave.
Thanks. When you feel a cold coming on, what do? For me, I like to cozy up with a hot cup of tea because it really helps me slow down, and I like to think it helps me heal. Now, tea in Asian culture represents a peaceful temperament that purifies the soul and brings harmony between people and within oneself. Now, if you've read the book Crazy Rich Asians, yes, it was a book before it was a movie, you may recall a chapter in the book that goes into really deep detail about the many steps it takes to pour the perfect cup of tea. But I'm going to boil it down into 3 simple steps for you. Step 1, prepare. You choose your flavor, boil the water, pretty self-explanatory, right? Step 2, awaken. What does that mean? Well, it's the act of taking your hot water, pouring it over the leaves, swishing that around, then pouring it out. What that does is it helps the tea leaves awaken to reveal their full aroma. Then finally, you get to enjoy. Now, this delicate and deliberate process of pouring the perfect cup of tea really forces you to slow down, even when your brain is moving 1,000,000 miles a minute. Now, did you know that the average person has over 60,000 thoughts a day? Now, that's a lot. But what if the majority of those thoughts are not super positive? Maybe you're worrying about something that happened at work or school. Maybe you're worried about a sick loved one. Or maybe you're worried about going home to an abusive partner. Now, these thoughts can be all-consuming, and if we don't have the right tools to properly address them, then think about what that does to our overall health. Maybe you'll become sick, burnt out, depressed. In Asian culture, it's really challenging to talk about mental health because sometimes there literally are no words to talk about it. Now, let that steep for a moment. In some Asian languages, there literally are no words to describe when you're experiencing depression, anxiety, PTSD, mania, and maybe the closest word to describe it is crazy. But that in of itself can be very problematic. And this means that there are a lot of feelings and thoughts that can't be properly dealt with or addressed, and even the physical outcomes that stem from our mental health challenges, they can't be dealt with properly. And not being able to talk about our mental health is making us sick. When you can't communicate what you need, how can you get the help that you need? Now, even when you can have these conversations with loved ones or even mental health professionals, we're often left in the aftermath of guilt, shame, denial, and blame. No wonder why Asian Americans are 3 times less likely than any other racial or ethnic group to seek mental health support. Now, another reason why it's really difficult to talk about mental health in the Asian community is because it can be really confusing trying to navigate between cultures, and maybe we have that lack of foundational support. Now, to unpack this a little bit, I'll give you an example. So, growing up, every weekend I would go to dim sum with my grandparents. And if you get there first, you order the tea. And the tea that you order is always going to be the tea that you know your parents and grandparents will like. And you don't really get to choose, even if it's not really your cup of tea. It's a collective experience, and everyone drinks from the same teapot. Now, this is quite different than in, let's say, Western culture, where my generation, millennials, we've popularized going to coffee shops and taking a good 30 seconds to order our hyper-customized drinks. Mine, for example, is a tall green tea latte with soy, no foam, and half sweet, please. You get to be an individual. But the expectation in Asian culture is that you do what's best for the family, the collective, whether that be making a choice about your tea at dim sum or in life, like shielding your family from what's really going on with your mental health. Growing up between cultures constantly begs you to choose between a set of values, expectations, and behavior. Now, for me, I grew up in Vancouver and was very fortunate to have my parents raise me on both Western and Eastern values. So what that meant was they allowed me to flourish as an individual, but still instilled in me the values of hard work and putting your family first. Now, to better understand this connection between my Canadian and Asian heritage and culture, I turned to storytelling and created a media company and community for, by, and about Asian millennials called Cold Tea Collective. And what we do is we created a platform for people like me, and maybe even just like you, to share stories of how we're navigating our identity growing up between cultures. And over the last 2 years, we've shared over 100 stories as I said, from people just like me and maybe even just like you, growing up between our Asian and Canadian heritage, growing up between our collective and individual hopes, dreams, and fears, including some of the cast of Crazy Rich Asians and more. Now, over the last few months specifically, we've focused a lot on opening up opportunities for Asian Canadians and Americans to share stories about their mental health, how they're overcoming challenges, and actually destigmatizing the conversation around mental health and having meaningful conversations, from losing a friend to actually even helping their parents seek support from mental health professionals. And these are the stories of everyday Asian Canadians and Asian Americans. The coolest part, though, is that some of the people that share stories on our platform have never written an article, let alone a story before, or talked about their mental health in such a public way. And for them, it's been a therapeutic experience. And through storytelling, they've been able to awaken and empower their families, their community, to not just create language around mental health, but also dialogue, understanding, and a safe space. My hope for healthcare is that we can destigmatize the conversation around mental health for the Asian community by empowering people through storytelling. And even if there's no language around it, at least we'll be talking about it. Maybe over a cup of tea. Thank you.
Well, thank you for such a wonderful beginning to our evening. Our next presenters are a duo, Alison Koyman and Rob Robson. Last summer, Alison and Rob discovered a shared passion for patient safety. Rob is an emergency room physician, and Alison is a former licensed practical nurse and first-hand victim of harm. And since then, they haven't stopped talking and working together to promote relationship-based changes in healthcare. Tonight, they're really excited to share that conversation with you. So please welcome Alison and Rob.
Thanks.
Hey, Allie, how are you?
Hey, Rob. I'm good. How are you?
Did you get the copy of the latest Patient Safety Times?
I haven't.
I got one for you.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. This is a kind of a strange Starbucks, eh?
It is a very strange
These
Starbucks with
chairs. Who are all these people? I don't know. Anyway, you know, I was looking at this while I was waiting for you to come. Do you know that there are more than 35,000 Canadians who die every year because of preventable harm in the healthcare system?
Yeah, Rob, unfortunately I am, because I'm one of those people who got
That's
harmed.
like 100 a day. That's like 4 people every hour. Like, what's going on?
I don't know. I do know that there's a lot of us out there who are trying to work together to help the system, though.
Yeah, well, I guess we need to get a lot of things done. I can't understand why we haven't been able to figure it out. You know, in 1999, there was a big report in the US called "To Err is Human." We haven't really managed to move the needle on patient safety much in the past 20 years.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think the problem is? Why can't we get this situation under control?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we have to get together on this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to be really blunt here with you, Rob. I think that the system is more concerned with protecting itself than with protecting patients.
Yeah, I like that. You know, you're talking about the elephant in the room. Of course, we're in Canada, so we're talking about the dead moose on the table in case... Oh, there's somebody from Newfoundland. Okay, so yeah, we need to get that out. We need to start talking about these things. What's wrong? What's preventing us from moving ahead? Yeah. I think we need to launch a challenge for everyone. That includes all of you who cares about this public health crisis. And the challenge is to get together. Let's start with the Minister of Health and the insurance companies, the CMPA and the Healthcare Protection Plan and the colleges of physicians and surgeons and the College of Hospitals. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know.
I feel like you're missing somebody.
Oh.
What about the patients?
Oh. Uh-oh. Yeah, yeah, I sort of, yeah. Patients. Okay, yeah, they should be sitting at the table too. Let's all get together around that table.
I guess
And-
you haven't heard the patient mantra. Nothing about me without me.
Say that again so I can really get it.
Nothing about me without me.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I'm really sorry about that. I just kind of goofed there.
It's okay, I'll forgive
Okay.
you this time.
Yeah, yeah. So you know what? I think the challenge when all these people are sitting around is we gotta get legal liability off the table. We need a moratorium on lawsuits in healthcare. And we need to do that so that when we really start to learn from the system. Right now, there's too many impediments.
So are you suggesting a kind of no-fault system? I hear that works in a lot of countries. It certainly is a kinder approach.
Well, we got to shift from suing people and putting up barriers to learning so we can come to a better understanding and actually change something.
I can't even imagine all of the learnings we could capture if we could talk openly after a patient safety incident. No more of this shame and blame game. Both the patient and the provider could heal.
Yeah, you could say that again. I'm pretty sure that most docs, nurses, pharmacists, everybody would be on board for that. You know what? We have to start treating patients with respect, giving them honest answers to their legitimate questions. Stop the stonewalling. And we have to be allowed to do that. So there's going to be some changes in legislation that's required.
I like the sound of this. I wish I had that kind of option when I had experienced an adverse event.
Yeah, that's
So,
true.
like, this all sounds great, Rob, but how are we going to make it happen? Why will the system start providing open and transparent answers? And will hospitals and doctors and nurses be comfortable talking openly to us?
Yeah, you know, if we can get everybody to agree to this moratorium, get rid of the lawsuits and litigation, we'll start learning and we'll be able to set up a true restorative just culture approach. So much more effective than the traditional punitive approach.
I think a restorative justice approach to harm in healthcare is very appropriate. The
Yeah.
question will inevitably be, how are we going to pay for this?
Yeah, so we're going to make some changes to Section 51 of the Evidence Act. We need to change the way complaints are handled by the licensing bodies. And so healthcare providers are no longer afraid of investigations. We can learn.
Didn't you tell me that there's more than like $5 billion to deal with medical liability and only like 40 or 50 million to deal with patient safety? Why can't we use some of that money?
That is really messed up, but those are the real figures. And I don't know, if we were to look at it for BC, that would be, you know, maybe if we can agree to a pilot project for the province, about $450 million would be available. And the government wouldn't have to continue paying all of the doctors' medical legal fees.
I'm listening.
Yeah, patient safety investigators, though, so that we can learn, they're gonna start getting trained in the new techniques, the nonlinear methods to analyze and understand, and so that we come up with robust understanding of what's happening.
I just hate to say this, but when something sounds too good to be true, you haven't said anything about apologies or direct sharing between parties and providers.
Yeah, you know, we talked about the restorative just culture approach. We're going to train people in that, and that's going to make those conversations easier. Yeah. Who are we forgetting in this story anyway?
Well-
The College of Hospitals.
Except there is no college
Oh,
of
no,
hospitals.
come on. Are you
That's
kidding?
right. But we need to invite the universities and the colleges.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I guess so. I don't know what.
So what are we waiting for?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe these folks can tell us. There's a lot of people for a Starbucks here. I don't know. I don't get it, but yeah, we need to sort that out. It's
Yeah.
a big problem. 4 people an hour are dying. That's not good. Yeah, so I don't know. What do you think?
Well,
That was great. Well, as you can see, people get really creative in all these things, and that was really, I was spellbound by all that. I was sort of, it was almost challenging Bernie Sanders there with justice. Billionaires should not be running this malpractice business. I'm thinking of a run for office, but I'm 68, so I'm warming up for the next 10 years, and I'm throwing my hat into the ring I'm announcing tonight. Okay, moving on. Our next presenter is Andrew Brown. And again, we have all sorts of varied topics here, and this is a bit of a glimpse of the potential future that may really help us through in healthcare. It's fascinating stuff. Andrew is a data scientist with Fraser Health. His passion for machine learning and the promise of that it holds for the present and the future of healthcare has taken him across sectors and across the province. So he's going to give us a glimpse of what this fascinating intellectual movement combined with modern technology might do for our future. So please welcome Andrew.
Hi. Thank you. So my hope for healthcare is that we can embrace machine learning to the benefit of all of our patients. But I don't know if you've heard anything about how hard it is, but it's very, very hard for some organizations to adopt it, and it's going to be particularly hard for healthcare, I think. So I think I should start by telling you why I want to do this hard thing, or why I think we should do this hard thing. Since 2012, data scientists have been using deep learning to predict cancer from medical images. And they've met with rather crazy success at this, so much so that the media has declared the end of radiology as a career. I don't think that's the case, and the emerging consensus is more like we're going to mix them together. We're going to bring radiologists and this deep learning together into one system, a kind of digital triage. The highly certain diagnoses are going to be handled by the machine learning, everything else by the radiologists. What this will do is it will remove the radiologist from being the bottleneck in the diagnosis pipeline. It'll allow patients to get their diagnoses faster, it'll allow them to get to treatment faster, and it will allow them to get on with their lives faster. This is a huge impact for a lot of patients. But this isn't the only thing that we can do. My project, my current project at Fraser Health, is a data entry automation task. And the data enterers in this case are registered nurses, quality improvement registered nurses. So when I free up their time by automating some of their data entry, they can take that time and put it into quality improvement projects. Things like reducing the rate of surgical site infections or reducing the rate of accidents and injury in surgery. Another big benefit for a lot of patients, because there are a lot of surgeries going on. But there's even more like this being found in the literature. Things like being able to predict ICU patient crashes hours in advance so that we can prevent them or mitigate them. Other things like predicting rushes on emergency rooms so that we can staff up a few days in advance so that we can prepare. On and on and on. I think healthcare has to do this, but it's going to be hard. Machine learning is hard, and it's going to be particularly hard for us because we've always struggled with adopting new technology. So I'm going to tell you a bit of what you're going to face when you try to do this, some obstacles to adopting machine learning into healthcare. My first one is summed up like this: I don't want to be replaced by a robot. I sympathize with this, but I don't think it's going to happen. Healthcare is so complicated and so people-focused that we're never going to get rid of people in the system. We're going to end up with those mixed solutions everywhere. And it kind of misses the point, too, because healthcare has always had to do more with less, and that's not going to change. Digital triage and these mixed systems are the way to do more with less. The people are always going to be there. We just have to get them used to working with intelligent systems. The second obstacle that I'm going to tell you about. It's impossible for computers to do what humans do. I think you can guess my thoughts on that. But very smart people have been saying things are impossible forever, and they've often been pretty wrong about it. And I think they're wrong in this case, too. Statements of impossibility are really just pointing out often that we need a new way to think, a new training regime to break the 4-minute mile, a new engineering technique to break the sound barrier, something new. Data science and machine learning is the new way to think about what computers are capable of. And it's working. Jeopardy and Go are two games that were never thought to be beatable by computers, and both have fallen over in the last few decades. The real key here is that if there's data, then we can get a computer to probably do the impossible, quote, impossible thing. And as we all know, healthcare has tons of data. The final obstacle I'm going to tell you about. You can't do that. You can't access that data. You can't install that program. You can't use our networks that way. If you work in healthcare, you know what I'm talking about. You've experienced this administrative lockdown, and it can be crazy making sometimes. But to that I say, healthcare has many, many terabytes of data available to it, data that could be used to save millions of dollars and thousands of lives, and it's sitting in our databases, not really doing either. I think we need to unlock that potential. I think we need to let our data scientists get access to the data. We need to let them have the freedom to install those programs that they need to do their experiments and build the tools that we'll use. And we need to allow them to deploy those tools that they build to everyone. We need to let them innovate. But there's a catch. We can't tell you ahead of time what we're going to need to innovate. The nature of innovation, to do something that has never been done before, prevents us from telling you what we're going to need. But we can say that what you have right now won't be enough, and that we get new things too slowly. So when our data scientists come to us and say, we're going to fail unless, we need our organizations to accomplish that unless. We need our organizations to do that without compromising security and privacy, and we need them to accomplish that with a newfound swiftness. We can do this. We have all these obstacles and more at Fraser Health. You will too, but we're making progress. In fact, this week, that project I mentioned is launching with a user base. You can do this too. We can all do this, and I think we have to, because machine learning isn't the future anymore. It's really right now. And I think it's healthcare's duty to start saving people's lives with it. Thank you.
As you can see, you are sure to find a topic that interests you this evening, no matter how diverse it is. And in that vein, these Pechakucha presenters represent a broad swath of the community from different backgrounds, and it's not just strictly related to healthcare. This is a connective tissue kind of concept, and this is in the person of Zach Berman, what we're going to see next. Zach is a co-founder of Canada's first cold-pressed juice bar and was named one of BC Business's top 30 under 30. As an avid traveler, cyclist, painter, and author, he is inspired every day to explore the amazing power of food and the environment to help us to heal and to make us well in our bodies and in our health and in our minds. So please welcome Zach.
All right. How's everybody doing? It's bright up here. I usually, when I talk about health and wellness, I usually lead off that I'm not a doctor, so to consult with your doctor if you've got any questions about anything of the things I talked about today. So if anything resonates, talk to a doctor at the end of this talk. So this is my business partner, Ryan. Enough about him. Myself and Ryan, after years of friendship, we decided after university we'd take off for a year of travel through India, Nepal, Southeast Asia, and that's kind of where a lot of the ideas that would become the Juice Truck took place. So if you're ever stuck or you're needing some inspiration or you're looking for some idea to change things, we always talk about travel being the great crux to kind of loosen all of those things and the great place to find inspiration and ideas. So while we're on this trip, we were hiking through the Annapurnas in the Himalayas, and we found this berry called sea buckthorn. And we learned that at the high altitude, the locals depended on it for a lot of their health and wellness. So it kind of sparked this idea that as we traveled, we would seek out whatever local communities were doing for their health and wellness. So in India, we learned about Ayurvedic medicine and yoga and meditation, and we tried all sorts of wacky foods called ashwagandha and shilajit and things that we couldn't pronounce at first, but these were ancient medicines that had thousands of years of history to them. So when we got back to Canada, we didn't know what to do with our lives, and we talked a lot about what we enjoyed on this trip, and we decided, why not turn this passion into our practice? So without much knowledge of business, I graduated at Emily Carr studying painting. We decided to put those finger painting skills and those travel skills, and we launched a food truck. So this, at the time in 2011, we were Canada's first cold-pressed juice business. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with cold-pressed juice, but you can find it pretty much everywhere now. But at that time, it was kind of the beginning of a marketplace. Since opening in 2011, we've opened 6 locations. We distribute to over 100 grocery stores, and we employ over 100 people. So we've grown a lot since 2011, and we kind of are continuing to grow. This is our newest location. We just actually opened in Whole Foods this weekend, and we're going to be opening in a few other Whole Foods as years come. So a big part of that is partnership and finding people that you can grow together with. Just like in the medical industry, you want to have partners that are going to be there to grow with you. And part of that partnership is collaboration. So we like to always be thinking outside of the box. We did some shoes with native shoes. We've done juice that we've put into beer. We've done kombuchas and lemonade stands. So collaboration is a big part of thinking outside of the box and finding solutions for us. For us, it's all about building healthy communities. So big long table dinners where you're having genuine connections, you're putting your phones down, and you're looking each other in the eye, and you're connecting for more than the span of a tweet or an Instagram post. Some inspiration for us is eating for our planet. We always like to think, what are our values, and do they align with what we're seeing on our plates? So for us, that means plants. We don't want to see it's a funny picture, but back to those values, like we don't want to see cruelty or harm or violence or any of those things caused to what's showing up on our plate. So we think about acts that are peaceful and aren't causing violence or pain or suffering. So on that point, we also want the health and wellness for our planet. So this is a plant-based burger from Tomorrow Foods, a local company. So animal agriculture is responsible for 18% of greenhouse gases. That's more than the combined exhaust from all transportation, which is pretty crazy. So if you've got the choice between a plant-based option or a non-plant-based option, just consider what those choices reflect. We like to think about how we've done it for centuries, letting the food be the medicine. We're big about preventative health, eating a healthy diet so that you don't have to be on prescription medicines or things that are preventable through food. One of the groups that we learn from are the blue zones. If you heard about the blue zones, there are areas around the world where people live an average age over 100. And one of the main components is a predominantly plant-based diet, family, regular exercise like gardening and walking, and having social engagement. That's not my son, but he kind of looks like that, so it could be my son. A lot of this is working for the next generation. We want to provide our kids and future generations clean air, clean water, fertile soils. So we have to think about what the cost is of what we're putting on our plates, what we're contributing to, so that they can enjoy the same privileges that we have. This is your book. If you want to start a juice bar, it tells you how to do it. It's got all our secrets, all our recipes, all that stuff, and kind of all the values and plant-based stuff that I'm talking about. For me, I always want to be the constant student. So this is one of the guys I listen to. There's podcasts on everything out there, from doctors to athletes. Every day, every time I'm in the car is a learning opportunity. So just continuing to learn and continuing to evolve as students and teachers. That's basically it. Went by pretty quick there. Thanks, guys.
All right. Well, we've just heard a talk about prevention and a long, healthy life and so on, but inevitably, it does come to an end. And our next speaker, I don't mean to be, that's an introduction and a segue. It's not some kind of, it's not a great metaphysical reflection on the meaning of life. Because our next presenter, Lauren Daly, is on a mission to wake us up to our own mortality. Inspired to pursue a career in palliative medicine after her mother's unexpected death, tonight she hopes to share the benefits of having a healthy relationship with death and dying. So please welcome Lauren.
On a lighter note, no, just kidding. Okay, good. In Bhutan, there's a belief that thinking about death 5 times a day will make you happy. In Thailand, Buddhist monks have been known to meditate to photos of rotting corpses as a reminder of their own mortality. Pretty dark and twisty, right? But what if thinking about death is the dark and twisty secret to living a more fulfilled life? As a palliative care doctor, I think about death and dying every single day. And I've come to appreciate the benefits of having a healthy relationship with our mortality. I've also seen the overwhelming discomfort with which healthcare providers receive death into their practice. When I come to see patients who are near the end of life, it's not uncommon for me to hear members of the medical team say things like, "We've run out of options," or "There's nothing more we can do." They shroud the dying with euphemism. The patient is palliative, they say, confusing our attempt to alleviate suffering with dying itself. The issue with these phrases is that they apply a very medical lens to the very human experience of dying. By saying things like "there's nothing more we can do," we imply that when medicine can no longer cure a disease, we as medical providers have nothing left to offer a dying person. It's this narrative that drives our collective death anxiety in healthcare, equating the death of a patient with a failure of our practice. This creates an uncomfortable space for those of us who chose to become healthcare providers to save lives. So it's not surprising when we sometimes turn our backs to our dying patients. But if we apply a more humanistic approach to the issue of dying, we realize that there's always something more we can offer, even to a person who has limited time. We learn that saving lives can be as valuable a pursuit as saving deaths. Saving deaths can be as valuable a pursuit as saving lives. The cornerstone of the work we do in palliative care is medical management of serious, life-limiting illness, along with impeccable pain and symptom support. But the magic of our work happens when we move beyond the medical particulars and consider the human face of dying. When we have the courage to look our dying patients in the eyes and consider their struggle as something we too will one day face, we quickly realize that there is hope beyond cure, that there's always something more that can be done. Perhaps it's giving a manicure to a woman as she takes her final breaths after she fretted a day earlier about her chipped nail polish.
Or maybe it's getting a lobster dinner for a homeless man receiving medical assistance in dying the next morning. A final request for a small luxury coming from a man who spent most of his life eating in homeless shelters. Or maybe it's helping a frail but feisty, bedbound elderly woman get outside for the first time in weeks so that she could enjoy a cigarette and gin and tonic, as was her evening ritual for many nights before she got sick. Maybe it's even just holding space for someone in the early moments of death, honoring them as a whole person who loved and was loved. What we don't learn in medical school or nursing school is that we have the power to heal, even when we can't cure. In sharing in these and other intimate moments with my patients, I have been changed. In a way, I too have been healed. So, my hope for healthcare? That we stop viewing the death of our patients as our failure and start considering it as our opportunity. Our opportunity to see our patients as whole, vibrant people with priorities in their lives beyond just living longer. Our opportunity to see the humanity in our patients and in ourselves, for there is no experience more universally human than the experience of dying. Caring for people who can't be cured can teach us incredibly valuable lessons. Lessons in humility, that nature will always prove more powerful than even our strongest medicine. Lessons in compassion, that when we're faced with an unfixable problem, sometimes the best thing we can do is sit in solidarity with our patients' uncertainty, to lean into their suffering rather than turn away from it. Lessons in human connection, for death truly is the common ground of humanity. In being present with our patients who are near end of life, we may start to consider our own lives a little more thoughtfully. We may even begin to embrace our inevitable mortality, perhaps finding ourselves inspired to delight in life's simple pleasures, like a fresh manicure in fire engine red, or the rich taste of lobster dipped in warm, melted butter, or the crisp, familiar bite of a gin and tonic. The death of a patient is not our failure. Our failure is what happens when we turn away from the people who need us most. So the next time you think there's nothing more we can do, remember your power to heal, even when you can't cure. You may even find yourself being healed along the way. Thank you.
Fabulous. Wow, that was pretty inspirational, and the imagery quality was also wonderful, as well as the poetic words. So may we all get to have a doctor like that as we approach the time. So we have seasoned veterans of health and healthcare, we have elders, we have people in mid-career, and we also, in Pechacucha, give opportunities for the next generation. And our next presenter, Xander Wilms, is this year's winner of the Health Talks Student Contest. He's a second-year med student in UBC's Northern Medical Program who's passionate about quality improvement and eager to share his hopes for a collaborative and team-based care and a better system in the future. So please welcome Xander.
Thanks so much. All right, thank you. I am ready to go. All right, good evening, folks. First and foremost, I just want to express my gratitude for this opportunity to speak in front of leaders in healthcare advancement on the unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. As learners within this province, we are all fortunate to come together on this beautiful land. My hope for healthcare is that our health systems take a radical shift towards team-based care, that we as partners in quality improvement and patient outcomes can prioritize a cohesive health system that truly exemplifies what it means to be a team. So, as much more experienced speakers than myself have done, I thought I'd use an analogy. And I got all excited as I brainstormed how the pieces of a healthcare team are so like that of an intricate machine. How with just one gear faltering, the whole system disassembles. And as my analogy grew, I had an epiphany. I know nothing about machines. So I scrapped that. I needed something personal to me. When I was a child, I lived in a story where I was Batman. Truly, I believed I was. To the point that I often instructed my parents to follow wailing ambulances from my car seat in the hopes of helping out. They didn't, of course. But this perspective of believing I was Batman gave me a pretty independent disposition, a feeling of being strong enough to go to battle all on my own. Well, through years of experiencing the many highs and lows of being human, I've learned that I can't really do anything on my own. I lean on my family all the time, and I'm living with 3 of my classmates in a house, and we do practically everything together. That's my team, and I need them every single day. Can you relate to my story? To the journey of recognizing that you function best when your ambitions are scaffolded by the care and the support of others? I believe that our health systems are maturing into accepting the need for authentic teams. Not long ago, we were entrenched in a standard of care where physicians were the penultimate authority, and we still have a long way to go before achieving ubiquitously collaborative care. But that's a future I look forward to. So, what is team-based care? Well, there's an academic definition that really speaks to me, and I was going to read it out to you folks, but honestly, it's a bit of a mouthful. So instead, I'm going to guide us through the different pieces. And as I do so, I want you to consider your team, your people, and the role they play in moving you forward. All right, first piece of the definition. Health services to individuals, families, and/or communities by 2 or more health providers. This is our intro to collaborative practice. Collaboration by its very nature must be inclusive. It must be non-hierarchical, and it must have authentic coordination between not just nurses and physicians, but allied health professionals too. Health is complex, and we have so many services that challenge those complexities, but it doesn't mean that it has to be complicated. We need to streamline our communication systems to optimize teamwork amongst professionals and ease the journey of our patients. Next, health services to health providers who work collaboratively with patients and caregivers to the extent preferred by each patient. Who but the patient could possibly be a more integral member of any healthcare team? Yes, it will take time, and it will take education. But 2 medical ethicists cited in the book Being Mortal define the interpretive patient-physician relationship as one that encompasses shared decision-making, and I love how that idea is infused into this definition of team-based care. Guide, but don't dictate. Respond, but don't impose. Counsel, don't simply inform. In that same book, Atul Gawande extrapolates on how our advanced medical technologies often result in more harm than good. Albeit less common, patients aren't always looking for a cure. And just as importantly, we don't always have one. It's in these moments that teams need to be accessible, to work with patients to decide which characters and which tools they need in their story. And the last piece, providers, patients, and caregivers accomplishing shared goals within and across settings to achieve coordinated, high-quality care. Usually without any background in healthcare, patients are forced into the most delicate circumstances. Team-based care means integrating patients into our circle to help them create rest-of-life goals that are right for them. That is a massive challenge. But look around you. This event pulls every sector of healthcare together, all of us passionate for the well-being of patients. Together, we can meet this challenge. We can streamline workflows that harness our diverse backgrounds, expertise, and perspectives so that patients aren't confused, lost, and submissive, but emboldened, goal-oriented, and aware. That's my brother. My childhood was a good story. Also good is my ongoing story of figuring out that I am not Batman, that my network of people is a stronger force than I could ever be on my own. Now, despite accepting that I'm not Batman, I still have a passion for stories. To learn about and positively impact people's stories is why I've always wanted to be a physician. Ever since I hung up the cape. And as a future physician, I know that I can't do a good job of that alone. We have the opportunity to include characters into people's stories who will seriously change lives. An opportunity to maximize professional potential, reduce burnout, economize and optimize our resources, and improve patient outcomes, all of which team-based care has proven to do. So, with the utmost respect for the many administrative and clinical pieces behind healthcare reform, I hope that I've offered you cause to consider advancing team-based care and this system-wide revolution. I hope that you walk away from this week more connected, more inspired by heroes in every sector of healthcare, and I hope that you will help me advocate for an authentic team approach that we absolutely need in order to follow the sirens and help out in the best way possible. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I feel the Justice League is in good hands, and that's no joker. I think you are Bruce Wayne. Our next presenter is Gwen Phillips. Gwen is a citizen of the Ktunaxa Nation, a proud grandmother, and is a dedicated champion for quality data to help support First Nations well-being. She is experienced in public education and relationship building and is currently the director responsible for leading the Ktunaxa Nation back to self-governance. So please welcome Gwen.
So first I want to say thank you to the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh people for allowing us to be here. We don't own the land owns us. We are just the keepers of a sacred trust. Thousands and thousands of years our people have been on these lands. We recognize ourselves as this point in time. We look back 7 generations to think about what we learned from those generations. We project forward with that knowledge to sustain ourselves that many generations again into the future. And if we think about time, it's not a line that passes like this, but it is a spiral, cycles that continue to unwind. And if you put that spiral on its side, it kind of looks like DNA. And understanding that those 7 generations ago, they actually started to influence me and who I am today. My great-grandparents, my great-grandfather was a Nasuokin. He was a chief. His job was to ensure that the people had what they needed to be well. And in fact, our winter dances, which we're just coming out of, the whole focus is about dancing for the well-being of yourself, your family, and your people for the coming year. We have teachings that are thousands of years old that tell us how to behave, that warn us about lust and greed, that warn us about what we should and shouldn't do. We have teachings to tell us how to grow healthy babies, to avoid babies that might be born stained or with a mind that can't focus. But we had a culture clash, misunderstanding, communication. We were called heathens, no understanding. This picture is a picture that continues to sit in a museum in my country, over in the Kootenays. It's a picture of one of our women who had swallowed a bunch of nails. The word for nails, the word for iron, is the same word as the word for iron. Nails, iron. She swallowed them. She was anemic. The doctor told her she needed iron. Culture clash. No understanding. No time for understanding. So we understand that our people have no voice. My father was caught between the time before, the time in the future. He was a brilliant man, illiterate, couldn't speak English when he was a child, couldn't read and write English as an adult, but a brilliant, brilliant man. He suffered greatly from heart and other conditions, from trauma. My mother, physical dynamo, body still going. But as soon as my dad passed, her heart broke. And we saw an immediate decline in her mental capacity at that time. Her heart broke. In my ways of understanding, your heart and your head are connected. To think means to ask your heart. This is my great aunt. She almost looks like me, or I almost look like her. And in fact, when I showed this picture to my kids, they thought it was me. Where did you get that done, Mom? One of those nostalgic photos. Understanding that I existed prior somewhere. This is me. I was born crippled, turned in feet, breech, cord wrapped around my neck, pneumonia at a week old. I was born a frail child, chronic tonsillitis. In fact, those things are still haunting me today. I had a relationship with my doctor as a child. He came to the house. He knew me. He knew the environment I was growing up within. He knew my environment. Our environment has so much to do with how well we are, our physical and social environments. We forget that. The relationship we have now with our PhD is not the same. In fact, it's like a dance in the door, dance out the door. I've had so many referrals for an issue that I'm still trying to get some resolution for, but the 15 minutes appointments and the same test over and over and over doesn't get you any answers. We have a saying, try differently, not harder. In fact, we understand that the person's circumstance is actually connected to all kinds of things. I think they call it the determinants of health. Your social support network, physical environment, your gender, your genetics, absolutely, personal health practices and coping skills, all of those things that actually shape well-being. So we're not talking about healthcare, we're actually talking about disease management. We need to focus on healthcare. For Indigenous people, it's a challenge because we're caught between provincial jurisdiction and federal jurisdiction. Provincial laws don't apply in my community on the reserve lands. So for health and safety, basically we have very few laws that apply to us. So we're caught in this strange place. And words, they do create worlds. So watch what you say. Watch how you say it. My doctor's referral letter to those ENTs, I said, what's going on here? Why are they shooing me out the door? Why did the doctor say, anyone can make their tongue look swollen? Well, when I looked at the referral letter from my doctor after being pushed away from 4 or 5 doctors, she said, oh, sure, here's your referral letter. I took a look at it. Oh, my gosh, no wonder. She said, what? I said, read it. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to calling you a challenging patient. I meant to say it was a challenging case. So remember that those words will come and haunt you and haunt you and haunt you. So take care as you put a word out into the universe. Remember that what you do today will affect your child, your grandchildren, your children to come in the future. The word for root in my language, akukpokam, literally means taking your life from the earth. Akukpokam nam, my children, my grandchildren. What we do to the earth will impact us. So please, my hope for healthcare is that we care for the water, the land, and everything around us, because that is our health in the future. Because truly, you know, we don't own the land owns us. We are just the keepers of a sacred trust, sustained by the water, the land, and the trees, our ancestral home for centuries. So let's try differently, not harder. Aye.
So it flies by this evening, and it seems like we just are getting warmed up, and we're almost at an end. We have one more. So our final presenter is Nikos Theodosakis. Nikos is a longtime resident of Penticton, and he's worn many hats, from restaurateur to author to filmmaker. He is dedicated to encouraging learning and to helping people realize meaningful visions and projects that matter to them and the people they serve. So please welcome our final presenter, Nikos.
Thank you very much. Quiet on the set. Roll camera, action. I love making movies. I love how small ideas can become motion pictures. I love how personal dreams can become shared experiences. And I love making movies, I love watching them, relaxing into a director's vision, surrendering into that trust when you watch a movie. We've all done it. You're going to a dark theater, you got your popcorn, the lights go down, the movie comes up on the big screen, and you just want to relax into the comfort and trust of a professional storyteller. But then sometimes the actors will look out the camera, sometimes the microphone will be in the shot, sometimes the line of dialogue sounds really fake, sometimes you're watching Game of Thrones and there's a Starbucks cup on the table. And these mistakes, though minor, they take you out of the movie and they disrupt that trust that you're in the hands of professionals. So recently I was diagnosed with Parkinson's. So I've been visiting doctors. And I met this fantastic one. We set up a treatment plan, met with the receptionist to schedule an appointment. And she showed me this information form about what to expect for my treatment, how to prepare, and just all the kind of great details. I thought, excellent. Then she starts crossing the sentences out, saying these are inaccurate. She laughs and says, oh, the form hasn't been changed since I started working here 6 years ago. So in my gut, I felt this disappointment. And I recalled how previous meetings we had of scheduled errors and the doctor's instructions weren't relayed to me. And I realized that I had a movie in mind, and now there was a Starbucks cup in it. In my movie, I was starring as being surrendered into the hands of a professional and their team. And so the mistakes that happened, though minor, took me out of the movie and eroded that sense of comfort and of trust and safety with that person. So what I do is I work with organizations facilitating a strategic planning process called Thinking Like a Film Director. And we work with storyboards, pitching, screenwriting to create organizational visions that matter. And part of that vision is deciding how do we keep the audience, the people they serve, in the movie. So in order to do that, we first have to look at this idea of what is a movie. So imagine, here's an exercise for you. Imagine it's 3 years from now, and a film crew arrives at the front door of your organization. They're here to make a film about you and the fantastic work you do because of your leadership, innovation, and success in your field. Great. And not only that, but you have been asked to direct this, to sit in that chair and decide how is this movie going to look like. So how are we going to use your camera to tell your story? What exactly we're going to see? If you're to interview someone 3 years from now, if you interview yourself, what are you going to say about what you do and why it matters? What is this movie going to look like? And most importantly, where do you put the camera? Well, where does your story start? Does it start at the patient's home, on a telephone call, a website, a reception desk, a lab, an office? Where does that journey begin? And in the best of worlds, how does it unfold step by step or shot by shot? So filmmakers, in order to realize films that don't yet exist, use storyboards to articulate what they see in their heads and to share how it unfolds scene by scene and shot by shot. And the great thing about storyboards is that they illustrate, especially when shared with the whole filmmaking team, they become a consensus, a visual consensus of where we're going. Before the chaos of the production crew arrives, decisions about locations, wardrobe, camera angles, these are all informed by the detailed storyboards that have been created. So the storyboards illustrate a successful execution of what a film will be, what our guide is, what is the map. It's an agreed upon future. So in the same way, a storyboard of a successfully executed patient's journey in a healthcare experience could also provide that kind of consensus of how and why do we define success. And then if you can imagine taking it in slow motion to be able to ask, what does each step do and how is it there and how does it serve us? The Okanagan-Similkameen Neurological Society in Penticton, they wanted to dream about this in their new movie they were dreaming about, part of it was this reception area, this new reception area which they wanted to be welcoming to the new families. Well, how do you shoot welcoming? Where do you put the camera? What do you see? So for the staff of the OSNS, they saw luxurious chairs, luscious plants, handwritten poems on the wall, soft lighting. So suddenly this scene called welcoming can be described as a sum of different shots. So how would you shoot welcoming? How would you shoot reassurance or hope? Not only do they achieve their 3-year goal in 2 years, they continue, the staff, to dream up these details to keep the audience in the movie, like this fantastic child-sized door, like fantastic portraits of the staff dressed up as pirates inside, like this answering machine on their phone that was recorded by a 5-year-old child with autism, Lyric. So what do you dream for? I challenge you to kind of sort of consider how you interact with clients and patients and each other, and then take just kind of one aspect of that and just kind of imagine, what would it look like moderately transformed or radically reinvented? Take a piece of paper, a pencil, and start storyboarding it, and just kind of see what that process does for you, what questions come up. Sometimes we look at things through a fresh lens, and it gives that potential for new things to be revealed. So the invitation, I think, is to consider, when those glimpses of inspiration come, to honor them by writing them down, recording them, storyboarding, writing, to examine them and to start sharing those ideas with people. Because every director's film begins with a dream, usually in private, usually ridiculed, but eventually like-minded people come together, resources come together, and those private dreams become shared experiences throughout the world. So I guess my hope for healthcare is the same, which is that people who are working in healthcare, I'd love to see them receive encouragement, resources, and opportunities to take their dreams, what they see, their wisdom, and to create ever-evolving healing experiences that can be shared with the world, so that patients like myself can stay in the movie and surrender into the comfort and trust of those dreams. Thank you.
It's great. Thank you. Well, folks, that's a wrap. I think the film is done for this year. That was brilliant. Every year, I keep thinking, can it get any better? Can it be more diverse? Will there be some new creative stuff? And it's never been a disappointment. So first, please join me again in thanking all of our wonderful presenters for a fabulous evening. Just a couple of concluding thank yous, and for invite you to our little reception. Please let us know what you thought about this. There's an evaluation form, and again, as a data-driven machine learning organization, we want you to fill this out, and we will process it. And as always, we learn from your insights and suggestions and how it went. Of course, it's a wonderful evening, and everybody did fabulously. But if anything we can do to improve it, do let us know. Secondly, I'd just like to thank, on behalf of all of us, the BC Patient Safety and Quality Council for organizing the event, for chasing down the presenters, for holding the student competition. As usual, they do an incredible talent-finding job, so thanks to our hosts. I'm sure that there is loads for you to think and talk about, and we can start that right now, because just out here there will be a cash bar that is open for you to mingle and have a chat buttonhole the presenters, chat with each other about what you heard, what inspired you, and it'll be open until 9:30 to facilitate the discussion. And finally, a thank you again for filling the room and filling us with your enthusiastic responses. It's great that this is such a great turnout. The room is perfect for this event. And for those of you who are staying on for the conference, bright and early tomorrow morning, that breakfast and registration will start at 7 a.m. and the opening remarks will be at 8:15. For those of you who are watching remotely, thank you. I hope the transmission came through well and that the quality of the programming and the technology was really good. So again, thank you so much. Safe travels home, and we'll see you outside.